The world is eyeing the Kabul International Airport. In the aftermath of the twin blasts and a humanitarian crisis unfolding, foreign countries continue to evacuate their nationals and Afghans. Spain is the latest country to end their evacuation process in Afghanistan. The last two military flights arrived in Dubai early morning today. In a statement, the government has said that with these two flights, the Spanish evacuation of its Afghan collaborators and other families has now been completed. Countries are wrapping up the process as the 31st August deadline is just 4 days away. And Britain is also going to end their evacuations in a matter of a few hours. About 8 or 9 flights are left to depart from Kabul. But British troops will leave over the next few days. Ben Wallace pressed that they will leave before the deadline of August 31st.
Well, we at 4:30 this morning, the UK time, closed the Barons Hotel, shut the processing centre, and the gates were closed at Abbey Gate. And we will process those people that we have brought with us, the 1,000 people approximately inside the airfield now, and we will seek a way to continue to find a few people in the crowds where we can, but overall the main processing has now closed, and we have a matter of hours.
The UK has managed to remove about 1,000 people every day from Afghanistan. We are now getting you these visuals from London's Heathrow Airport, where the latest flight of evacuees has landed, and the British Home Secretary Priti Patel met with them in person. Experts have said that more attacks in Kabul could follow, so as a precautionary measure, Britain has now issued a notice to all its airlines to avoid flying below 25,000 feet. Meanwhile, Australia has officially ended its operation in Afghanistan. In fact, just hours before the attack, Australia's last military jet took off from the Kabul airport, carrying some of its top army officials and Afghan nationals. Some Australian visa holders still remain in Afghanistan, and it is not clear yet how they would be brought back. The United States is assisting other countries like Australia in the evacuation process, but Morrison warned that it was unlikely for Australians and visa holders to be given seats. In the last 9 days, Australia evacuated more than 4,000 people from what it calls one of the most dangerous places on earth. Canada has also ended its evacuations from Kabul's airport. Military flights evacuated about 3,700 people. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that the closing of the air bridge does not mean that it was the end of Canada's connection to Afghanistan.
But our commitment to resettle over 20,000 Afghans in Canada in the coming months and years, our work to continue to support people in the region, our continued work to put pressure on the Taliban alongside our international allies to allow people to leave Afghanistan and come to safety in Canada will continue. This particular moment is done, and it's heartbreaking to see, but there is much more to do, and Canada will continue to be there for Afghans and the Afghan people.
Germany has concluded its air bridge mission in Kabul as well. The last plane took off on the 26th night and headed towards Tashkent. This is 5 days before the August 31st withdrawal deadline. The defense minister has confirmed that all German soldiers, members of the foreign ministry and the federal police have been evacuated from Afghanistan. German military planes have evacuated more than 5,003 people. These are people from 45 nations, including 500 Germans and more than 4,000 Afghans. France is still seeking to evacuate hundreds of more people from Afghanistan ahead of a looming deadline. So far, about 2,600 Afghans have been evacuated. This includes 125 French men and women, 40 non-French nationals and 2,000 Afghans who are currently at risk. We were earlier joined by our correspondent Nick Harper from Washington, D.C. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
Well, I think Jen Psaki, when she was making that comment, the White House press secretary used the number millions, because that is the thought from the US point of view, that there are potentially millions of Afghans who want to leave the country. The fact that we've seen just over 100,000 evacuated in the space of about 12, 13 days, and we now only have 5 days remaining, there is simply, mathematically speaking, no way to get 1 million people out of the country. And yet, at the same time, the US is saying that there is no deadline when it comes to getting out US citizens and Afghan allies, people who've worked for the US government in the past. So look, they still plan to pull out US troops in 5 days' time, but they still will continue efforts to get people out even when US troops have left. They are determined to do that, even though we saw these suicide bombings during the course of the last 24 hours.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.